Today we are learning about lesson 8.5, multiplying radical expressions. And so when we're multiplying radicals, if you remember from one of the previous lessons, that as long as the radical has the same index, you can put the radicands under the same radical symbol. And so um, in these steps, if you look at this example right here, I'm going to zoom in just a little bit. The first step says multiply all of the coefficients together. So in this step, the coefficients are 3 and 5. So we'll multiply those together. And then it says multiply the numbers inside your radicals with other numbers inside their radicals. So the radicand of 2 and the radicand of 6, because they're both inside of a radical, we can put those underneath the same radical and then multiply those together. Okay, so 3 times 5 is 15 and 2 times 6 is 12. Then you need to simplify or factor your radical. If you want, you can write factor right here. Okay. And so when you factor out 12 here, you get 2, 6, 2, and 3. Remember, you're factoring all the way down to prime numbers. And so our prime numbers are 2, 2, and 3. And see how they put those underneath the radical? And then because our index here is 2, we don't see it, but we know that it's 2. We circle our groups of 2, and we can bring that out of the radical and multiply it by the coefficient of 15. And we get 30 square root of 3. The 3 stays in there because there was nothing to pair it with. And so that's kind of a review of factoring, putting it together with multiplying radicals. So let's look at example 1. Okay, we have 8 times 2. So we don't see a symbol, a multiplication symbol, nor do we see parentheses indicating multiplication, but that's what we're doing here. We're multiplying. So you could put both of these underneath the radical like this. And then you just multiply it together. So 8 times 2 is 16. And without factoring, we should know that the square root of 16 is a perfect square and it equals 4. And so this would be our final answer right here. Okay, I'm going to do the left side with you, then you're going to go and do the practice ones on the right side on your own. So let's go ahead and go down to example 2. Again, we have coefficients on the outside that we multiply together. So 6 times 4. And then we have the radicands on the inside that we can multiply together. I'm looking for a pen here. So we have 2 and 3 that we can multiply together. I really don't like using the X. I like using the raised dot. So 2 times 3. And now we can simplify that a little bit. 6 times 4 is 24. And the square root of 2 times 3 is 6. Now you need to make sure that you cannot factor this number any further. And so the factors of 6 are 2 and 3, and there's nothing to pair with. Even inside here, you don't really need to use the factor tree if you have this. There's no 2's to pair with 2's. There's no 3 to pair with 3. So this is the factored out form here. 24 times the square root of 6. Okay. All right. For example 3, we have 6 times the square root of 3 in parentheses being squared. And the way that you would write this out is 6 square root of 3 times 6 square root of 3. Okay. Again, you're going to take your two coefficients and multiply those together. 6 times 6. And then you're going to take your two radicands and you're going to write them underneath the radical symbol. Now, I'm not going to multiply 3 times 3. I'm actually going to circle them and I can remove them out. So, because they can be grouped together. Now, if you wanted, you could say, okay, 6 times 6 is 36 times the square root of 9. And then the square root of 9 is 3. So 36 times 3 is something. 36 times 3, 189, 108. Okay, but I'm going to do it this way. So we have 36 and we're pulling out a 3. So times 3, and that equals 108. Okay, I'm going to make that look a little bit better. So whether you do it like this, coming straight down, or you do it here, either way, you would get the same answer. Okay, so. All right, let's go down to example 4. In front of the radical of the square root of 4x, there is a 1 there. We just don't see it, but we know that there's a 1 there. So we're going to multiply our two coefficients together. 2 times 1 is just 2. So I'm going to simplify the steps a little bit. And then the square root. Now, I'm going to write all of this out. So we have the square root of 4 times 6 times x times x. Now, instead of multiplying 4 times 6, I'm just going to go ahead and factor those out right now. So I could factor out 4 to 2 times 2, and I could factor 6 out to 2 times 3. Okay, because if you multiply 4 times 6, you're going to get 24, and then you have to factor 24 out anyway, and you end up with 4 times 6, which is where you started. So it just makes sense to simplify this step a little bit and go ahead and factor what's on the inside first. And then I could rewrite my radical to 2 times 2 times 2 times 3, because I've replaced 4 and 6 with these prime factors, times x times x. And because our index is 2 over here, again, we just don't see it, I'm going to circle groups of 2 and take them out. So I have a group of 2 2's, and I have a group of 2 x's. I don't have anything to pair this 2 with or this 3 with, so they're going to stay inside the radical. Okay, so I'm going to pull these out and multiply them by the coefficient of 2. Please don't forget to do that. That tends to be a common mistake that students make. So we have 2 times 2 times x. And in the radical, we have 2 times 3 left over. Okay, so now we could just multiply all this together. 2 times x is 4x. And 2 times 3 is 6. Okay. All right. Now we're going to go to the last one. On this one, we're actually distributing. We're going to distribute the square root of 2 times 3 and the square root of 2 times the square root of 6. So the square root of 2 times 3. 3 is a whole number. It is not a radical. So it's written as 3 square root of 2. Okay. And then we're going to distribute the square root of 2 times the square root of 6. Notice that there is a plus sign here. So that means we're going to bring it down and we are going to put the addition sign there. And then we have the square root of 2 times 6. Okay. Now, I know here that I can factor 6 out further. If you didn't, you might put the square root of 12, but don't forget you have to go back and see if you can factor any numbers out. Okay, so we have 2, 2, and 3 here. So I'm going to rewrite this as the 3 square root of 2 plus the square root of 2 times 2 times 3. Okay. Now I can factor out a 2 in this one, and I'm going to take that out. And we have 3 square root of 2 plus the group of 2 comes out, 2 square root of 3. Now, at this point, some of you may want to add these together, but remember, in order to add, you have to have the same index, which we do, but you also have to have the same radicand, and we don't. So this is as far as you can go with this one. Okay. So that's the left side. I want you now to go and do the right side on your own. And when the screen comes back on, you're going to see all the answers to the right side so you can check your work. So you may want to pause the video right now. Okay, here is practice 1, 2, and 3. So go ahead and check those. And here is 4 and 5. So go ahead and check those. And now we're going to move on to the back. Okay. So just note this up here. Sometimes it helps to simplify the radical before multiplying, which is something I showed you on the other side. That just means like instead of multiplying 2 times 6 and putting it as square root of 12, try to factor it out first. So we're going to distribute here, just like on the other side. And we can put the square root of 2 times the square root of 6 underneath the same radical. And then don't forget that we have the subtraction symbol that we bring down. So I'm going to bring that down. And then we have the square root of 2 times the square root of 9. So it's the square root of 2 times 9. Okay. And this is what I mean by simplify the radical before multiplying. Also, another way to say that is to factor the radical. So I can't factor 2 out any further, but I can factor 6 out to a 2 and a 3. And then I can't factor out this 2, but I can factor out the 9 to a 3 and a 3. Okay. So I'm going to rewrite both radicals, replacing them with all the prime numbers. So I have 2 times 2 times 3 minus, oops, forgot to underline this too. 2 times 3 times 3. Okay. Now I'm going to group my pairs together. So I have a pair of 2s that I'm going to take out, and I have a pair of 3s over here that I'm going to take out. And so my 2 that comes out is on the outside of the radical, and I have a 3 left on the inside. Bring down your subtraction. I have a group of 3s that comes out of the radical, and I'm left with a 2 inside. Again, we cannot combine these any further because the radicands are different. So this is our final answer. Okay. Let's go ahead and do example 7 together. I'm going to put all of these under the same radical. Another way you could do it is just to go ahead and factor the 24 and then put them all under the same radical. Okay. Hold on just a second. Okay, sorry about that. If you saw my face on the screen, my screen froze, and I don't know if it freezes on your end, but it froze on my end. So, all right, so let's go ahead and look at 7. So I could put all of these 2 times 3 times 24 times x times x. Again, like I said, you could have factored out 24 first. It makes it a little bit, you skip this step right here, which is fine. So I'm going to factor out 24, and I'm going to do it over here on the side. So we have 2 and 12, 2 and 6, 2 and 3. So all of these, including these 24 we factored out, we're going to put under our new radical. So we have 2 times 2 times 2. Let's see, we have 1, 2, 3, 4 2s. We have 2 3s, and we have 2 x's. And now I am going to group them together. So I have a group of 2s, another group of 2s, a group of 3s, a group of x's. So you're noticing here that everything pairs together. That means we have nothing left inside of the radical. That means that we get rid of the radical. So if everything pairs together, you get rid of the radical. So 2 times 2 times 3 times x gives you 12x. And that's your final answer. Okay. Okay, on this one, you're going to notice that there's a parenthesis on the second term. All that's doing is separating the multiplication symbol from the negative symbol. So you're just multiplying these. Okay, so you're going to multiply your two coefficients together, and then you're going to multiply your two radicands together. So I'm going to show you a different way other than putting them all underneath the radical, the way that I was explaining to you in example 7. So instead of putting them all under the radical, you can just go ahead and start factoring these. 27 is 3 times 7, and 42 is 6 times 7, and then 2 times 3. So now what I could do is I can replace my 21 with my 3 and 7, and I could replace my 42 with my 2, 3, and 7. So I multiply my two coefficients together, -5 times -3, and then I put all of my prime numbers that I factored out underneath the radical, and I tend to put them in order. So 2, I have 1, 2, I have 2 3s, and I have 2 7s. Okay. So then at this point, I can group them together. I have 2 3s and I have 2 7s that I can take out, and my 2 has nothing to pair with, so that will stay on the inside. Oops, I put a 5 here instead of a 3. All right, so -5 times -3 is 15. And then I'm going to multiply that by the two groups that I am taking out of the radical, a 3 and a 7, and I'm left with the square root of 2. Okay, so now we have 15 times 3 times 7, which is 15 times 3 times 7, which is 315 square root of 2. Okay. All right. Let's go ahead and go down to example 9. We're adding a lot of variables here. So on this one, we're going to take -1/3, -1/3 times -6. But before I do that, I'm going to go ahead and factor this out right here. So 18 factors out to 2 times 9, and then 9 factors out to 3 times 3. 8 factors out to 2 times 4, and then 4 factors out to 2 times 2. And then I can't forget my variables, okay? So -1/3 times -6, and then underneath the radical, I have 1, 2, 3, 4 2's. And then I have 2 3's. And then I have all these C's. I have 14 of them. Now, if you want to use the simpler method, remember I said divide 5 by 2 and 9 by 2, and then whatever's left over stays in side the radical. But I'm going to write out all my C's because for students who don't see how to do that, it just makes it more complicated. And the difference is this is just a little bit more time consuming, and you have to write down all those C's. So I'm going to write 5 C's. I'm going to do 7 on up here and 7 here because I have a total of 14 because I have 5 here and 9 there. All right, now I'm going to group my pairs together. So I have a group of 2's, a group of 3's, lots of C's. And it looks like everything is going to be factored out. Okay. So here, -1/3 times -6. For those of you who forgot how to divide with or multiply with fractions, you just put your -6/1 and you multiply straight across, or you can cross simplify. So 3 divided by 3 is 1, and 6 divided by 3 is 2. And so you end up with -1 times -2 is a +2. 1 times 1 is 1. So -1/3 times -6 equals 2. Okay. But then I'm going to take that 2 and I'm going to multiply it by everything in here. So 2 times 2 times 3. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I have 7 C's. Instead of writing those out, you could just put times C to the 7th. Okay. And now I'm going to multiply all this together. So 2 times 2 is 4, times 2 is 8, times 3 is 24. C to the power of 7. Okay. All right. At this point, I'm going to have you do 6 through 9 practice, and then I want you to try example 10 on your own. I want you to try to figure out how to set that up. When we come back, 6 through 9 will be completed, and then I'll work on example 10 with you. Okay, so I'm going to pause the video, and when we come back, you're going to see the answers. Okay, so here are the answers to practice 6 and 7. Practice 7 was a little different because you had to square the square root of 5b and then multiply it by 2b. So I just multiplied 5b times 5b, put it all under the same radical, grouped them together and factored them out. So you have 2 times 5 and b times b. So 2 times 5 times b times b. And then here is 8 and 9. I messed up a couple times on 8 because I forgot one of my numbers. So that's why I tend to underline them so I make sure I don't forget them. Okay, we're going to look at the last problem. It says Chavez wants to find the area of a rectangular throw rug. So if you draw out your throw rug, he wants to know the area. And the rug has a side length of 8 square root of 5 feet and a width of 2 square root of 2 feet. So 8 square root of 5, 2 square root of 2. And so the area of a rectangle is area equals length times width. So all that means is that we're going to multiply 8 square root of 5 times 2 square root of 2. So area equals 8 square root of 5 times 2 square root of 2. So if you have not done that, go ahead and do it. And then when you're done, you can check your answer. Okay. And make sure that you put the units at the end of your answer. And that concludes lesson 8.5, multiplying radical expressions.